Hi, this is Mandy back with another video. So in thinking about the series I wanted to do this week, I want to focus a little bit more on the transitions of COVID and some of the things that your kiddos might be struggling with, young or older. But I felt like I needed to, again, give some of these foundational videos so that they make sense and you can put it all together when you consider the concepts that I'm about to talk about. So today I want to talk about why things are so simple for people diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder, and it may not be why you think. If you haven't watched my series on executive functioning, I would encourage you to go back and do that first. But it would help. It would help for a little bit of foundation for this one. So I think, let me start with saying that there's a myth out there that people who are diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder don't have a range of emotions, can't feel empathy, and or have difficulty outside of the scope of just happy or sad and really understanding those emotional concepts. So of course, as I said, this is a myth. It's a misconception. The other video that I did when I talk about autism spectrum disorders, those that are diagnosed, and the people that are not diagnosed, one of my points in separating these populations is to bring it to everybody's attention that we're not all congruent on this side, we're a bell curve. And again, the people diagnosed with spectrum disorders are also a bell curve. We're one big bell curve is the way that I look at it, with maybe these two groups intermixed in between as far as skills go. So when we make a claim that the emotional range or empathy or whatever is limited in this population, that's one, it's inaccurate because it can't be true for everybody. But two, I think that there's a little bit of a backstory about why this appears so. So let me talk a little bit about what I think is going on when I look at executive functioning and the work that I do with mood management with these kids. So one of the biggest sources of emotion that we see with these kids, especially early on, the kids that don't have a lot of language, is we see tantrums, right? We see kids that are frustrated, upset, throwing tantrums, or extremely happy. So in the range of tantrums, right? Kicking, screaming, hitting, sad, frustrated, rigidity, whatever you want to call it. And then happy, we just kind of generalize, and content, happiness, satisfaction, whatever adjective you want to use in there. So really, I think what is happening, why we see this limited range of emotions when these kids are young, is because the emotional response is provoked by either comfort or distress, like with anyone. Most of the distress in this population, if you really look at this through a behavioral lens, you can see can be traced to some root of rigidity or unexpected outcomes. So if we think about ourselves, us watching these videos, how upset do we do when something happens that we don't quite expect, right? It can be shocking. It might be a pleasant surprise, but it also might be equally devastating in a way. So we can have these two extremes, but nevertheless, it provokes some sort of emotional response of the unexpected. What we do is we quickly use our metacognition and we adjust our behavior and our thoughts and feelings to the new outcome appropriately for the situation, and then we take it back and process it in some other way, perhaps outside of the immediate situation. So these kids, what they do is they process that information right there, then and now, and whoever's on the other end of that happens to see the emotional outcome because, again, their metacognitive skills aren't developed enough to be able to make the distinction, let me show this emotional response now, it's socially appropriate, or it's not, and or this reaction may be too extreme, right? So for young kids, we see this in younger kids and across the board, whether they're diagnosed or not. But let me go back to the expectation idea. If we start to look at these kids through a lens of they want to know what the rules are. And this is exactly when so many kids need to know the rules. They need to know what to expect. There's a reason, because their brain learns information in scripts. We all learn it that way. But the difference with us who are not diagnosed is we have a heck of a lot more flexibility in that script because our brains are wired differently. This population struggles with the flexibility piece. So I'm going to make a second part of this video, as I usually end up doing, to talk more about the flexibility versus the rigidity, and then the behaviors and the emotional responses that you see with the outcomes when they're predicted and when they're completely unexpected for this video. So stay tuned. I'll have that one up real soon for you. Thanks for watching.